Coming up on Naperville News 17, the city of Naperville considers regulations on pet sales. Some local fourth graders making a difference. And a group of athletes partnered with the Park District and found themselves in a pickleball court. Hello everyone, I'm Kim Pierce. Thanks for joining us for this week's Naperville News. A discussion of commercially bred cats and dogs once again found its way to council chambers. Naperville News 17's Casey Krajewski has more.
Naperville City Council heard from more than 50 public speakers at their most recent meeting. The topic? The retail sale of dogs and cats. Council is considering banning the sale of commercially bred dogs and cats within city limits, known as Option A. That was supported by many animal rights advocates at the meeting.
Option A sends a very clear message that our city will not allow nor be a party to pet shops that profit from the exploitation and inhumane treatment by puppy mills of defenseless dogs and cats.
The other option on the table is increasing the standards of care for breeders, but that option saw little support from both speakers and council members. Both groups said it would be too difficult to enforce, as many breeders are out of state.
How are you going to enforce the listed regulations? All that can be done is to take the word of the pet stores that are taking the word of the breeders that regulations are being followed and the requirements are being met.
Naperville currently has 2 pet stores that sell commercially bred animals, Happiness's Pets and Petland, who claimed their breeders are responsible. They say they would be out of business if they couldn't sell breeder-sourced puppies.
Asking Naperville Petland to change their business model would be like asking Morton's Steakhouse to turn into McDonald's.
Supporters and employees of the stores said they serve those who want a specific type of dog or puppy and asked for the item to be tabled.
I believe there are benefits to both shelters and pet stores. Having the freedom to choose where to shop, knowing exactly what we wanted, gave my daughter, who was full of anxiety, the rare opportunity to fall in love with the breed of puppy she wanted.
As this was the first reading of the ordinance, council took no action after hearing from the public. They also didn't spend much time deliberating, as the meeting had already gone past 1 a.m. The topic will return to council at a future meeting. Reporting for Naperville News 17, I'm Casey Krajewski.
Council first began discussing this issue in 2014. Since 1790, the United States has done a head count of every citizen, known as the U.S. Census. Naperville News 17's Christian Canizal tells us what the 2020 census means to Illinois and Naperville.
With the U.S. Census coming to Illinois in the next few months, Naperville's League of Women Voters held an informational meeting on what to expect. The census does 2 primary things. It determines how many seats in Congress each state has, as well as how funding is distributed in each state.
Based on population, our 435 representatives are distributed equally across populations.
Riley went on to say, if a state's population decreases, it may lose a seat, and vice versa. Illinois currently has 18 seats, and experts are predicting it may lose 2 seats in the 2020 census.
And that impacts our electoral college voting power. A lot of people don't know that that number that you see on that map on election night for presidential elections is a formula based on how many people you have in the House of Representatives.
Since 1970, Illinois has lost seats in Congress in every census after. New to the 2020 census, you can now fill out registration over the phone or online. Naperville, who had a special census in 2018 to account for the growth since 2010, has created the Complete Count Committee, whose goal is for Naperville to account for 150,000 people.
It's approximately $175 per person per year that comes from the state to the city of Naperville.
Rice said at the federal level, each person represents $1,700 of funding. The city of Naperville has teamed up with local community hubs like the public library and DuPage Pads for those who don't have internet access can have a place to be counted until August when registration for the 2020 census ends. For Naperville News 17, I'm Christian Canizal.
There's an estimated $675 billion at stake in the 2020 census, so make sure you're counted. Recently, about 200 community members attended a marijuana and vaping forum at the Compass Church in Naperville. The educational event was hosted by Kids Matter and focused on the risks associated with marijuana and vaping, particularly with teens and young adults. Several panelists spoke during the event, including Aaron Weiner, the Director of Addiction Services at Linden Oaks. He said smoking marijuana before the age of 25 can affect the brain's hippocampus, which is associated with learning and memory, and the frontal cortex, which affects a person's personality.
These are not things that grow back. This isn't like you get a scab and it comes back. When you're growing up, your brain grows in some places and prunes in others. And if you introduce a chemical that changes that brain develop, you don't get to have that back.
Weiner also mentioned that marijuana's potency has gone up in the last 20 years with the increase of THC content. The panelists also discussed vaping and reasons why it has become prevalent with youth. One is the names of tobacco flavors like blueberry cheesecake, which is marketed toward young adults. At the time of this recording, a total of 2,668 hospitalized e-cigarette or vaping-related cases have been reported to the CDC, with ages ranging from as young as 15 to up to 75 years old. The panelists said in order for the epidemic to slow down, teens and young adults will need to stop glorifying vaping on social media. Kids Matter's next education series topic will be on stress and anxiety. North Central College is planning construction of a new building near downtown Naperville. The new 40,000 square foot Health Sciences Center will be located in between Patterson Residence Hall and River Square Shopping Center on Chicago Avenue.
We think that the building is on a great location on its property, close to downtown, which is going to provide the students who come to that particular facility easy access into downtown Naperville.
The site is also across from the Wentz Concert Hall. School officials said the new center could incorporate some design concepts from that building, creating a gateway into downtown from campus. The college originally planned for a new health sciences facility on property owned by Little Friends that they had hoped to purchase, but that agreement fell through after complications with zoning and the Kraler Mansion. The new site is already owned by the college and zoned for college-university use. The college plans to start construction this spring, and the building is expected to be ready to hold classes by the spring semester of 2021. After the break, some local fourth graders are mad about making a difference.
Welcome back to the game show, Who Is It? Today our contestant Sally is in the process of figuring out which one of our panelists is the real Crime Stopper. Sally, you have one more question for each panelist, then you will need to decide.
Number 1, when I call Crime Stoppers with a tip, do I need to leave my name?
Absolutely not. You remain anonymous.
Number 2, if my tip leads to an arrest, what's in it for me?
A cash reward for up to $1,000 for one thing.
And number 3, what is the Crime Stoppers tip line?
630-420-6006.
So who is it? Oh, sorry, time's up. Sally, we need your decision. Who's the real Crime Stopper?
They all are.
You're right, but how did you know?
'Cause I'm a Crime Stopper too.
District 203 will be drafting a Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, in regards to the role of school resource officers, or SROs, and student discipline. At their latest board meeting, Maureen Walgren requested a comprehensive MOU between the school and the police department that includes how SROs are trained, who they should report to, how to address safety concerns, and how to handle criminal activity at school. In January 2017, Maureen's son Corey died by suicide not long after he was questioned by school officials and a student resource officer at Naperville North without a parent present. The board will review the first draft of the MOU at their February 3rd meeting. Also at the meeting, a Naperville North senior received the Mission Maker Award. Nick Thompson was recognized by Superintendent Dan Bridges for pulling Lyle man Robert Skura out of his burning car after he crashed into a traffic signal at the corner of Ogden Avenue and Columbia Street.
My mind was honestly really blank. I didn't really think about anything that I did. It was kind of instinctual almost. I was running on instinct. I kind of ran out and I didn't really think about anything that I had done until after the fact.
Thompson was working at Jet's Pizza on October 4th, 2019, when his manager yelled for someone to call 911. Seeing the car had caught on fire, the high school student rushed to pull the driver out with the help of 2 other men. Skura received 5 charges, 2 of them speeding and reckless driving. In November of 2019, School District 203 hosted a Focus 203 on racism and implicit bias. Recently, the conversation was expanded upon in another Focus 203 meeting. Parents, students, 203 staff, and community members met in the Learning Commons of Naperville North High School to learn more about implicit bias. The meeting was led by Dr. Rakita Leeks, who presented on the subject. Leeks discussed how racism and implicit bias are different. She touched on factors that influence implicit bias, like the media we consume, personal experiences, and educational background.
What I was really hoping that people would get out of tonight's conversation is to know that we all carry biases. They are a natural human function, but we need to be cognizant of the fact that in some cases, some of the messaging that we've received over our lifetime about certain groups or categories of people could be limited and narrow perceptions of those groups, and that might also be one-sided or overly negative.
During the presentation, community members were asked to engage in thought exercises and take part in group discussions. Afterward, the entire audience came together and shared what they discussed. They also gave examples of times they experienced implicit bias or unintentionally took part in it.
Some of the individuals who attended tonight were very reflective and honest in saying, when I heard school principal, I saw this one particular image, and that image they saw was either connected to their life experiences or the media. So it's just a reminder how there's so many things that influence the way we think and how we see categories of people.
To learn more about implicit bias, Dr. Leeks recommends participating in the Implicit Association Test online, which is part of a Harvard research study. A group of 4th graders from Elmwood Elementary are mad about making a difference. Naperville News 17's Ryan Scrid tells us their story.
At Elmwood Elementary School, while other kids are out during recess, one group of 4th graders decided they wanted to spend their time differently by giving back. So with the help of their teachers, they started the MAD Club.
A group of them came up to me at the very beginning of the year, and they had this handwritten page letter about this club that they wanted to start, and it was called this MAD Club. They needed a space and they needed a teacher to help them, and if they could just come in at recess. So I said sure. And I initially loved it because of the name.
And what does the MAD in MAD Club stand for?
It stands for Make a Difference. Make a difference. Make a difference.
The club set out to do just that, starting their mission by making a difference in the classroom.
There's 5 4th grade teachers at Elmwood School, and they made each teacher a little letter kind of outlining that they had written these little notes for each student in their class as encouragement notes for testing. The notes were super simple and just said things like, keep going, you're awesome, we believe in you, and they encouraged each of us to pass those notes out to our students while they were testing.
But that's not all. Once the MAD Club got started here at Elmwood Elementary School, they decided to brave the winter weather for a good cause.
We set up a hot chocolate stand over by one of the members' houses. My friends that live across the street, they have a ton of Christmas lights, and it's on one of the lists to come and see, and I live right across the street from them, so we thought a lot of people would drive by and want to buy it.
The MAD Club members took shifts selling cocoa to anyone coming by, and the money they raised was indeed a sweet treat.
We raised about $280.
And they decided to donate that money to the Ronald McDonald House.
It feels really good because we know that we're doing something really nice for not just us but other people.
Proving that you're never too young to make a difference. Reporting for Naperville News 17, I'm Ryan Scrid.
The members of MAD Club are even motivated to continue giving back once school is out and want to keep meeting over summer break. Coming up, remembering and celebrating Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Using NCTV 17 is an opportunity to get the word out of what you do and what you create and the passion that you have, and puts the face with the business and then the voice with the business. It gives a relaxed atmosphere of somebody asking you questions about what you do and explaining it in a very succinct manner in a short period of time. The cost of it is minimal, in my opinion, as a small business owner, because you have to use audio and visual content as much as you possibly can to get the word out. And you want a good, solid looking, high definition, perfectly done professional in the studio. This is the place to be. It'll pay for itself 100-fold because it tells you, the customer, exactly what you want them to know. And then they can say, oh, I like that, and go, click, I'm going over there and I'm doing business with you. So I'd recommend coming here immediately.
On Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, a local community member told a story about the time he met the civil rights leader. Naperville News 17's Christian Canizal has more.
This year's North Central College's Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s prayer breakfast fell fittingly on the 60th anniversary of his visit to the college. Hundreds of Naperville's greater community gathered at the college's Science Center, a fitting location for the keynote speaker. Dr. Herman White Jr., a recently retired Fermilab scientist, told the crowd about the time he met King at a graduation ceremony in Alabama.
Reverend King's message that day was focused on events in Alabama, and he said, and I quote, "Our state suffered not so much from the violence of bad people, but from the silence of good people."
Dr. White, the first African American to have a scientific equation in his name, went on to talk about the injustice black people faced during the 50s and 60s, like voting suppression. A member of North Central's Board of Trustees, Dr. White says society has come a long way since that time, but still has a way to go.
We're surprised when someone says they don't want to sit next to an African American person in a restaurant. Well, practice on your own. When you go into a restaurant or you go into a meeting, sit next to someone who's not in your culture.
Dr. White's speech earned him a standing ovation from the crowd, which included Naperville City Councilman Benny White, the city's first councilman who's a person of color. He thanked the late civil rights leader and Dr. White for planting the seeds for his success.
I'm so appreciative of Dr. King, others, civil rights leaders as well that have set that stage and set the conditions for us to kind of be where we are. Understanding that, hey, we still have work to do. Long after I'm gone, hopefully there's a seed that's been planted for someone else to come along and have that manifest itself as well.
For Naperville News 17, I'm Christian Canizal.
Dr. White will be featured at Chicago's Museum of Science and Industry as part of their 50th anniversary of the Black Creativity exhibit. Community members from Indian Prairie School District gathered at Waubonsie Valley High School's cafeteria for parents advocating for the greater enrichment of students' second annual Day of Service. In honor of Dr. King, the group of around 80 worked together to write thank you letters to military members, color some drawings for kids with cancer, and fill socks with toiletries for those less fortunate.
I just feel like it's really important to give back because, we have so much, and it's hard to, step back every day and be like, oh, we have all this. Good to know that someone, is going to get a pair of socks, some nice toiletries, maybe a letter or something like that. It can cheer them up going through a rough time or, I'm just really excited for that, yeah.
The group, which consisted mostly of District 204 students, was able to pack about 250 socks. A proud moment of Page's Vice President, Marion Banks.
To see this sea of diverse people here today, to come out in this cold weather, to be here in support of this great day, and to honor the legacy of Dr. King, it really warms my heart, and I'm just overwhelmed and overjoyed.
After packing up the socks, some entertainment was provided courtesy of the Warriors stepping team. Honoring the legacy of Dr. King by coming together on a day off and turning it into a day on. Community members returned to Waubonsie Valley that night for the City of Aurora's MLK Celebration. The large crowd at Waubonsie Valley High School's auditorium was treated to multiple musical performances by local students at the 35th annual MLK ceremony. Some District 204 students also received a special award from Mayor Richard Irvin for their volunteer work in the community. The event had 2 keynote speakers, White House correspondent April Ryan and Grammy Award-winning pastor Smokey Norfolk. Both of them reminded the public of Dr. King's hard work and urged them to follow in his footsteps. They ended the celebration by singing Happy Birthday to Dr. King. With both temperatures and snow expected to fall this time of year, you need to take steps to make sure your furry friends are safe. The Naperville Area Humane Society says if you plan on letting your dog outside in chilly temps, it shouldn't be longer than 10 minutes.
I think one of the most important things is actually pay attention to your pet. Just because they have fur doesn't mean they don't get cold. They're going to shiver just like you might, and a lot of lifting of the paws. Like either the ice is too cold, they might have salt in their pads, so you really need to pay attention to that.
Lenz recommends using pet-friendly salt when you're done shoveling and said using petroleum jelly on your dog's paws acts as a protective barrier against salt and the cold. And if it's too cold to walk your dog outside, like during 2019's polar vortex, Len said there are some indoor locations where your best friend can burn off some energy. Lenz also said it's okay to feed your dog a little bit extra during the cold so they can add in some more layering, but be careful you don't give them too many treats. A local writer overcame cerebral palsy to make her Disney dream come true. Our own Casey Krajewski tells us about Erin Feeney.
Erin has always liked Disney.
Erin Feeney's love of Disney started when she was a little girl. And being diagnosed with cerebral palsy hasn't stopped her from achieving a lifelong dream, writing Disney stories. Erin is nonverbal and communicates by pointing to letters on a board attached to her chair. Erin's dad transcribes for her. After Disney heard about a story Erin wrote that was turned into a short film, they got in touch. One thing led to another, and soon, the creative team for Doc McStuffins wanted Erin to write them something.
They asked for some ideas. They gave us some guidelines that they wanted Erin to follow. And she submitted a whole bunch of ideas, about 10 ideas, and they said, well, we like this one.
This one was Tailspin, which was published on Disney Junior's YouTube channel on January 14th. It tells the story of a bird who can't keep up with her flock because of a small tail. Many of Erin's stories have to do with bullying and friendship. She says she was bullied in elementary school, and her Disney friends helped her through that time, especially
SNOWWHITE, Snow White.
And as for what's next for Erin,
are you still interested in finishing college before you pursue a career? Okay, but if a job came up, would you take it? Sure.
For Naperville News 17, I'm Casey Krajewski.
As of this recording, Tailspin has been viewed more than 65,000 times on YouTube. Up next, the golden journey of a Matia Valley athlete.
To make the USA U18 national team is to complete a gauntlet of tryouts, but the destination is part of the reward, a piece of hockey history to marvel at.
From there, you get picked to go to Lake Placid, which is top 33 in the country. Then that's 2 weeks long, so the first week everyone's trying out, and then from there you either get sent home. There's a few girls that get sent home, and then or you stay for the rest of the week, train a little bit more, and play Canada in the series. And then from there, they make the final call if you made it or not, because they still make cuts all the way up to the last call.
Metea Valley student and Chicago Mission defenseman Lindy Lobdell made it through the month-long process, landing her in the spot where the Miracle on Ice was immortalized nearly 40 years ago.
I don't even know. It was just weird being there and realizing these amazing hockey players who just like idols to me have played here and won gold in the craziest way. It was just amazing.
That meant trading her green and white for the traditional red, white, and blue, a perfect time to stock up on USA gear for the Lobdell family.
We spent some time on Amazon buying some red, white, and blue because we didn't have a whole lot. So, but it was cool. It was neat to celebrate with the red, white, and blue, and to see everybody take full advantage of the opportunity.
Growing up playing hockey himself, David Lobdell coached Lindy and her two sisters, Lexi and Lainey. From a young age, David saw the will to win in Lindy, which would eventually lead her to Team USA.
She always wanted to win. She was always the one, taking it going end to end if she had the opportunity and, to come up with big goals.
She did just that in the semifinals against Russia in Bratislava, Slovakia, en route to the championship game. When the dust settled on the 2-week trip to Europe, Lobdell and her team were gold medal winners, topping Canada in the title game.
I mean, it was just pure excitement. It was just screaming and jumping and the big dog pile, and we just didn't know, we were all just screaming and jumping around. It was the best thing in the world. I can't even explain it. I've tried to explain it so many times and I just can't.
You see all of the time and effort that she puts into it, and for that to culminate into making the USA U18 national team was pretty big. My wife Jackie and the rest of the family were just ecstatic. I mean, there were an awful lot of hugs and an awful lot of tears.
With the win now in their rear-view mirror and graduation from Metea Valley on the horizon, the hockey star will trade in red, white, and blue for just blue and white, heading to Penn State to play collegiately. Yet another cool destination for Lobdell. Reporting for Naperville News 17, I'm Kevin Jackman.
And if you have an idea for a sports story feature, you can let us know at newstips@nctv17.com. The Western DuPage Special Recreation Association partnered up with the Naperville Park District to get a crash course in pickleball.
We come out here to the Fort Hill Activity Center and play pickleball on our own. This is the first time we've actually partnered with the National Pickleball Association in regards to doing any kind of clinic or more skill building opportunities.
After quickly going over the rules and safety precautions, the group broke up to practice some skills like serves and returns. Once everyone had those techniques down, it was time to pair up and start playing.
We're always looking to challenge them different ways, give them a little bit of skill building in the process, but we don't want to take away from the fun of the game either, so we do end up wanting to play the game as well.
Quainton said pickleball is a popular request in their program, and a lot of people were really excited about this event. Naperville has free pickleball courts located at Nike Sports Complex. And that's what's happening right here in your neighborhood, Naperville. We'll see you next week. Until then, you can catch up on local news by signing up for our NCTV 17 news update delivered right to your inbox Monday through Friday. Sign-up information is right on our website, nctv17.com.
This week's Naperville News 17 is brought to you in part by the following sponsors. This program is partially funded by a grant from the City of Naperville.